Hello and welcome to Media Matrix. Did you know that as a citizen of the United States, you have the right to access federal documents from federal agencies?
The Freedom of Information Act, better known as the FOIA, is a law dedicated to providing citizens with the opportunity to request access to federal documents from federal agencies only. If you want to submit a request for information, you should go to FOIA.gov first and see if it is already publicly available, because a lot of them are already available. If it is not available, you can write a letter describing the records you wish to obtain directly to the agency's FOIA office. When trying to obtain information, you do not have to provide information as to why you want it, but the agencies do have the right to deny your request if they are able to justify why they are denying you. An episode of Truth and Power focuses on animal activists, and one activist, Ryan Shapiro, goes into detail about his negative experience while trying to file for a FOIA.
Is a pretty radical tool. It basically says that citizens have the right to get access to what the government is doing.
Having never before used FOIA, Shapiro started submitting requests for government records on the activist he knew best, himself.
The FBI responded that they didn't have anything on me. And then I submitted a request on another friend of mine, and the FBI had raided her house. I got the same answer. No, we don't have anything.
With every obstacle he encountered, Shapiro refined his tactics and relentlessly pursued his goal. Animal rights activism had become a battle for something bigger: information and transparency.
So I started submitting hundreds of requests.
Ryan is kind of a FOIA ninja.
My OCD, contempt for the FBI, and need for conflict at times may have been problematic, but here it worked out very well.
He obsessively went through and learned all of the protocol, all the rules, all the filing systems of the FBI.
But the FBI still set up roadblocks. Fighting unjustified redactions, long delays, and poor searches, Shapiro needed another weapon: FOIA attorney Jeffrey Light.
FOIA was designed to be very easy to do and to be accessible to anybody who wanted to do it. The problem comes in actually getting the records. Particular types of documents they will always reject. Other times, the government just wants to keep secrets. I've had clients get back 500 pages of just completely black ink.
When an agency doesn't comply with the law, one is allowed to sue. So that's what we did. Jeff and I sued the FBI.
Ryan asked about dozens of animal rights activists and organizations. And the FBI's response when we got into court is that Ryan's project of requesting all of this information was a threat to national security.
It simply should not take an MIT scholar and an expert specialist attorney in order to get records from the government, but we need to know what the government is doing.
And next we interview Anthony Pantuzzo, attorney at law, about the FOIA.
Okay, so I just have just 4 quick questions for you about the Freedom of Information Act. So my first one is, what is your understanding of the Freedom of Information Act?
Well, it's supposed to be an aid to openness and transparency in government, whereby any official government actions are not supposed to be hidden, so that the public can have access to documents relating to official public actions.
Right. Okay, cool. So then my next one is, how important is the Freedom of Information Act when it comes to some of your cases?
Well, typically the way that I use the Freedom of Information Act is I'm primarily dealing with either the federal or the state Department of Labor. And it's helpful but not crucial to what I do. It's helpful to the extent that I can, for example, I can find out if there have been prior similar complaints filed against a particular employer by one or more employees, because that's what I do, is I do employee rights litigation.
Okay.
So there's that. Now, the flip side of that is there are times when I'm going up against say, the state or a particular state agency, and I have to use Freedom of Information Act in that case. And then it's a little more a little more important because it enables me to get documents that I either might otherwise not be able to get or would have to wait until we're actually in litigation to get through the discovery process.
Okay. So it's like, yeah, okay, I get that.
It's a useful tool.
Right. It helps you get to know the other side. Okay, so going off of that, let me see what else I have. So you kind of just answered that. My next question was, have you ever worked on a case where the Freedom of Information Act played a critical role?
I wouldn't say a critical role, but a helpful role.
Like just a tool.
Yes.
Okay. So in your experience with any of your cases and whatnot, so is it difficult for you to get permission to receive the documents?
Really depends. And I think the thing that it depends on is whether or not I'm in an adversarial posture with the agency that I'm trying to seek the documents from. For example, if I'm just contacting the Department of Labor saying, hey, are there any complaints filed against this employer? I've never had a problem getting documents.
Okay.
But I can think of one situation in particular where I'm going up against a particular state agency. I'm about to file suit. They know I'm about to file suit, and let's just say that their observation of the Freedom of Information Act is not very good in those circumstances.
Right. Okay. So they kind of are like
they don't
like,
want to give me stuff.
They don't want to give it to you. Almost like they're running away.
So either they ignore it or they just put it off and keep sending letters. Oh, we're working on it. We're working on it. We're working on it.
Do you find that companies do that a lot, or agencies do that a lot?
Again, I'm thinking about one specific case that I'm involved in right now, and that's been the agency's pattern throughout because we're in an adversarial position.
Right. What do you think the importance of this act is when it comes to controversial cases?
Well, it can be very important if it's being used to unmask some sort of governmental wrongdoing.
Right.
And I think that tends to be what's going to be the controversial type case.
And then my last question, which you kind of already answered when you were thinking of your one, but it's, what is your opinion on how federal agencies abide by the Freedom of Information Act?
Well, this one I was thinking of was actually a state agency rather than a federal agency, but there's generally, my understanding of it is there's generally kind of a resistance to Freedom of Information requests in just as a matter of course. I think sometimes people who are trying to get documents have to push where they might not necessarily should have to push.
Right.
Losing it. Thanks for joining us here on Media Matrix. See you next time.